when you serve on a panel with these distinguished members, it makes it easy to go last, which is one of my favorite things to do is always go last. Because that way I don't have to repeat a lot of things. I was asked today to talk about the concerns and ramifications of the passage of concealed carry. The Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence is one of the oldest gun violence prevention groups in this country. Our focus has always been, how do we reduce gun violence and save lives? The law passed. It's the law of the state. Professor Kane did a wonderful job of explaining in 20 minutes 7 years of my life. And a very interesting last 9 months. The week the court ruled on the decision saying that the legislature had to implement some kind of carry was also the week that a lawsuit against online sale of handguns was filed. And 2 days after the announcement was the shooting at Sandy Hook. Why I remember that is because it's been a very long year. The legislature went back and forth on many different concerns, talking about where restrictions were in place. Professor Kane went through that. The training requirements are some of the strongest in the country. Could they have been stronger? Yes, that's a concern we have, is that the training requirements for law enforcement are stricter and more frequent than that for people carrying in public who don't have the training. Another concern we have is about, and that we're hearing from business owners across the state, are the restrictions on where firearms are allowed in the places that serve alcohol. It's been an interesting conversation with a lot of business owners who may not have zoning issues where they're zoned as a restaurant. They're zoned as something else that serves food and then turns into a nightclub. The threshold of 50% or more for alcohol sales is something that many business owners are having questions about. Can they allow weapons into their place? If they allow them in, are they violating the law? The signage requirements are another concern. The universities, for instance, have had some concerns about where exactly they have to put and post a sign. I'll give an example. If you're ever driving down I-55 towards Springfield in Lexington, Illinois State University has a farm property that's extensive, and there's questions as to where exactly does that signage have to be placed. Public transportation units have contacted us as well as to whether or not the law means every bus stop, train stop, sign needs to be posted with a prohibition of carrying a concealed weapon. Does it have to be put into the entranceway of a bus or train? So the concerns that are really coming forth are those of logistics. The size of the sign, the state police, and the website that Professor Kane provided is the official signage that can be used to be posted and prohibit firearms from being brought into a non-prohibited place. There's concerns also that have come forth from some of the parks as to notification. For instance, in the city of Chicago, Grant Park is an extensive park along the lakefront with numerous entrances. Some are marked, some are not. And where exactly does that signage have to be placed? Those are the types of things that we're not sure if we'll see conversations prior to the fall veto session that just ended. State police have also expressed some concern in testimony prior to the legislation being passed as far as making sure, to the state's attorney's point, that those people who should be prohibited from having guns are in the system. It's a concern that has been there since and with the FOID card system, and it continues now. Currently, there's approximately 30 of 102 counties that are providing all of their mental health records to the background check system. Our concern, as the state's attorney mentioned, is also making sure that those people who should not have access to firearms do not get that access. To the state's attorney's point, we look forward to working with you on cracking down on straw purchases, going after the legal guns entering the illegal market, because those are ways that we can all work together to reduce the loss of life throughout Illinois. Some other concerns, and some numbers, we've talked about law enforcement and those so-called law-abiding citizens with their permits. As crime happened, the Violence Policy Center out of Washington, D.C. Has tracked over 526 killings of private citizens, including 26 mass shootings of permit holders. Again, to the state's attorney's point, oftentimes those are people who should have set off a warning system, and were still able to get guns. There's questions about whether or not crime will go down. 8/10 of victims in a recent study of gun violence say that they responded to their attacker by using or threatening to use a gun. So one of our concerns is that more guns in the community may not or will not make you safer. We've seen this thought that guns will make you safer. State's attorney mentioned John Locke, whose studies were routinely dismissed for flaws in their data collection. Well, really, we're at a threshold of what's going to happen next. Where do we go from here? How do we address those concerns of keeping guns out of the illegal market? The court made its decision. The debate in the legislature was true what they say about sausage making and law. It was a conversation where concerns were brought up in both the House and Senate by region, by areas, by different legislators on concerns they had, law enforcement's concerns. It's not the best bill. I just had a conversation with the bill's sponsor shortly before it passed, who said to me, "Mark, I've always figured if a bill in Springfield passes and both sides don't like it, it can't be all bad." I don't know about that, but I do know that both sides have concerns. Hopefully that this now works as a point where we can focus more to the point of some of the concerns the state's attorney mentioned. I will mention that it's not in the bill that implemented the concealed carry, but in legislation that was also passed at the same time. We focused on some ways to take those guns out of the illegal market. That's requiring a universal background check on all gun purchases and the reporting of lost or stolen firearms to law enforcement. Those two measures are measures that the state police have said will be the most effective in keeping guns out of the illegal market. So, as I said, I wasn't going to use my 20 minutes. Professor King really covered some of the nuances of the bill and the law, and I think we'll move forward on the frequently asked questions from the state police are something that I highly recommend that people take a look at. They're very informative. We've been working throughout the state with business owners and other concerned organizations, such as the League of Women Voters, on what exactly is in the law. Maybe I'll just give them your number, Professor, and save the miles on my car. But I kid on that. It's wonderful that everyone was able to come out and show their interest in what really will be an interesting experiment. The data collection, and I'll just finish this, is something that's not included in the law. So there is some concerns we have on being able to relay the actual effectiveness of it. I think it's a concern shared by law enforcement as well as other organizations. I appreciate the League for having me here. It's always a pleasure to work with them. We've been working together on this issue in gun violence prevention for at least the 7 years I've been here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So thank you very much.